Wow, straight from the get-go, we just get into the draft. So my name is Asura, and of course here with me now is Riku, and we'll be your casters for game number 1 in the specified series for our semifinals, Ascension Gaming versus Kuala Lumpur Hunters. So without further ado, you know what to do.
Yes, Suri, I'm so excited. Just as the desk has mentioned, 6-0 for Ascension Gaming. So in terms of momentum, they do have that. They are also last champions for the GPL Spring Split 2018. And they have already faced Kuala Lumpur Hunters. So let's check out what their priorities are. I'm not very surprised to see that Malzahar ban against Kuala Lumpur Hunters, just because it has been very effective. And especially it's one of RH Comfort, you know, sort of one of the very strong picks for him in the mid lane.
Yeah, definitely. So they were also talking in the analyst desk about how there's like Kuala Lumpur Hunters is the team that actually has the biggest chance to be able to stand up against Ascension, and it has been kind of like they showed, like, we didn't expect that to happen, but they showed up during the group stage.
Exactly, and we have seen so many adjustments. When day 3, day 4 came, there were a lot of surprise picks coming from Kuala Lumpur Hunters, just like the Leona support, just as the Aurelian Soul as well. So I'm assuming in this best of 5 series, there will be a couple of certain adjustments, learning process. There's so much room to just dish out these secret strategies against Ascension, because again, they are the team to beat in this Globe Conquerors Manila tournament.
Yeah, so speaking of secrets, we actually won't be seeing any. I feel like this game number 1, we won't be seeing too many crazy picks. And for the bans, it's actually pretty standard all throughout. Zoe and Rise, you don't really want those kind of, you know, snowballing as the game progresses. Varus is one of the picks that Nixstar is known to have used consistently during the group stage as well.
Exactly. So now let's see what Ascension Gaming's priority is going to be. Is it going to be at the top lane, or since Nocturne is open, which is one of Caspiel's carry picks as well in the jungle, aside from the Kindred, and immediately in response to that, they hover on that Camille just so that they could shut down one of Rocky's prominent picks during the group stages.
But it's actually not yet a lock-in pick. They are still hovering over. Nope. This is the tournament where we won't be seeing the 8.15 Akali. So if you guys are like looking forward to it, sad life, it's not really going to happen. But for the meantime, there you go. One of the, if not the most picked champion in this particular tournament, the Rakan.
Exactly. One of the very most contested supports as well. Usually we don't see a Rakan because it's always being banned, but looks like Ascension Gaming is that comfy enough to let it through. But in the end, we'll see what their second pick is going to be. Either they pick something in the jungle right now, which is the Kindred. Caspiel's pick on the Kindred has been a very effective champion for him, because it allows him to keep roaming and invading throughout the map, especially at the enemy jungle. And as well as this is a very key pick when they won at Hyperplay. That was just recently conducted at Singapore as well.
Yeah, great actually to point that out. But now we're seeing Ascension also pick up the Tom Kencher. So they're just, you know, getting these safe picks for the meantime, and it actually just allows, you know, whatever Nixstar picks to be more of a safe pick, which is what I believe Ascension Gaming kind of does with their bottom lane, wherein, you know, they have Nixstar and Rich just kind of have this bottom lane that isn't going to be as explosive you think they would be, but at least they won't fall off.
Exactly. But then again, it seems to me that they've decided to get a Pyke and a Tom Kench. So first game for today, we have certain surprises here. So we'll see how that's going to pan out. I'm not quite sure if, like, KLH, you can see the faces of KLH. It's like, is this right? I'm not sure. But then it's interesting because I was assuming that it might be like an AD carry that Ascension would have locked in if you pair it with a Tom Kench. But so far, I am very amazed by the picks here from our first game between KLH and the Ascension Gaming.
I think the word that you're looking for is flabbergasted.
Flabbergasted. You read my mind, Asar. You read my mind.
Actually, just I mean, just based on my experience, this could actually be a top lane Tom Kench.
Yes.
It actually has a lot of good counters if you're gonna go for maybe a tank top laner, or even if, like, maybe you go for an Aatrox. I mean, Aatrox hasn't really seen a good amount of, you know, successful play during this tournament, but I feel like it's gonna be a good matchup overall, and you have at least that, you know, that global presence as well with the ultimate from the top.
Exactly, and as well as it seems to me that Ascension Gaming is just consuming a lot of their flexible players just so that they will get more picks away from Kuala Lumpur Hunter. So getting that Pike, getting that Tom Kench is pretty interesting. But then again, we're seeing a lot of first times here. Again, Heimerdinger did not appear at all during the group stages of our Globe Conquerors Manila. So this is certainly another interesting turn. But we'll have to see how this pans out. Kaisa being banned on the side of Ascension Gaming, as well as Aurelia and Camille. Not surprised right there, but it just means that there's a lot of flexibility going on. Like Camille could be assumed, banning that could be assumed either top side of the map. We'll have to see. It's just very, very interesting.
It's very interesting and kind of tries to catch you off, but I feel like this might be like, I'm pretty sure we did have like that time when you and Amplify were interviewing the teams where Kuala Lumpur Hunters were saying that they have, some strategies that they might actually employ. I was expecting that we might see that, later as this game progresses, but it seems like it's going to be starting, right from the get-go. I'm pretty sure this Heimerdinger is going to go for that ADC role, because if I think about it, it's actually not a so bad matchup against the Pike.
Yeah. Could be still anything either way, because second phase of Ascension Gaming, they still banned out the Kaisa, they still banned out the Saya. So they're still assuming that that Heimerdinger, yes, could be in the mid lane. But here, Nixar locking in that Misfortune, one of the most key picks as well during the group stages. He performed phenomenally on this MF. So we'll have to see what their mid lane is going to be. And it seems that they're hovering over to the Azir, Aserai.
So there's a lot of mobility here for Ascension Gaming, not only for initiating ganks, but for actually controlling the team fight as well. And something that it just looks to be like is there's a lot of setup here to actually maximize the ultimate for the Misfortune. Like you have yourself that, the incredible drift coming out from the Azir. There's also the ultimate of the Nocturne that'll block out the vision of the opponents. And this is just like all good setups for Nixar to maybe, kind of contribute more to the team fight with the Misfortune. And Kuala Lumpur Hunters. There you go. It's going to be the Heimer ADC or Heimer bottom lane.
Hyper bottom lane indeed. So I guess Ascension Gaming was just very wary, assuming that maybe it's a surprise mid lane Heimerdinger trying to ban out the ADCs. But I'm liking this pick from Shiro as well. So we'll have to see how this pans out for the both of them. Because again, a very heavy magic lane for bot side and as well as the mid lane as well. And Caspiel has a lot of CCs to work with just to get him rolling throughout the early phases of the game. Split push as well is also covered coming from Shiro's side just in case they get a little wonky start on the early phases of the game. For Ascension Gaming, there's that Pike pick as well, because most of the time during the early phases for Ascension Gaming, it's pretty chill at bot. But with that Pike pick, I'm assuming they would get that Pike, roam to mid, and get G4 rolling. Or if they see an opportunity with their jungler Lloyd, they could immediately get themselves up as well during the early phase of the game at the bot side of the map.
Yeah, it's like a duo death squad that they'll just use to keep, the pressure up. And this is what I believe the analyst desk was also talking about. Like, one of the spearheads for Kuala Lumpur Hunters is actually Caspiel on that jungle role. Like, Caspiel is more of that guy who just wants to be, the one to start everything for Kuala Lumpur Hunters. He goes for those carry type of jungles, and Kindred is one, like you said, used in hyper play quite a bit. But something that catches, I feel like, will catch them off guard is this top lane Tom Kench. Like I said, it might not be a good matchup against the Gnar in range form, but against the huge melee form, the Mega Gnar, I think it's gonna be a good one, because if you're gonna stack up the Tom Kench, then you can actually disable him, swallow him whole, and just keep him out of the fight.
Exactly, a lot of safety for Ascension Gaming side just in case that they might be caught off guard by the death squad of Kuala Lumpur Hunters. But again, looking back, taking a step back from the group stages of GCM, it's a surprise to me that they put Rocky in a very utility champion this time around, because most of the time he's so very effective carrying carry champions. At the top of my head, Renekton, Camille. But at this time around, it's just very interesting that they opted for this starting composition.
All right, so I believe we are ready to get into the Summoner's Rift for game number 1. So let's just straight roll it in. And quick announcement, guys, this tournament is under the regulation and supervision of the Games and Amusement Board.
There we go. I'm so...
You know, it's very cold here in Mall of Asia Arena, but I feel like these picks from both of these teams are total fire. So, yeah, you know, let's have a quick rundown of our players. And again, this is game number 1 here for Ascension Gaming. In the top lane, we have Rocky on the Tom Kent's jungle. It's going to be Lloyd on the Nocturne. In the mid, well, we'll be having G4 on his Azir, ADC Nixar with the Misfortune, and Rich for the Pike.
Yes, sir. KLH here on the Nard, Jungle Caspiel on that Kindred, RH on that Aurelion Sol, Azora Vecchi on the Heimerdinger, and support Superior on the Rakan.
So, interactions. What do you think was going to happen here? I mean, Pike's going to try to at least dive in and get some nasty hooks against his opponent, but as I've seen in the past, we've kind of like experienced Heimerdingers and as a bottom lane, right? And he excels at kind of being able to zone effectively opponents. So with picks such as, again, Pike and maybe even the Nocturne who wants to get into the middle of the fight, it could actually be more of a task for them now that it's gonna be, you know, a Heimerdinger in that particular role.
Exactly. But on the other side of the spectrum, we have Ascension Gaming with a lot to roll with, especially if the Nocturne goes Paranoia. You do have the Abyssal Voyage to take someone with you and do a 3-man sort of aggressive gank and just not, wow, early game aggression from KLH here. He has the ability to do so.
Yeah. This is something that you gotta take note, guys. We're gonna be pronouncing KLH's Aurelion Sol as RH.
RH.
He baits us to call him R-Hedge, but yeah, it's not gonna happen. Anyways, another thing that I kind of want to point out here in this particular matchup, I like it because Aurelion Sol, with his Flaming Orbs of Death, you're going to be able to at least bypass the Sand Soldiers here of Azir, and when he uses his ultimate with the wall, you can actually just bypass all of that with all of your damage. Nothing is gonna get blocked, which is, I think, like a good answer as well from Kuala Lumpur Hunters during the drafting stage.
Yes, but you have to take note that there's a lot of explosive things going on the composition of Ascension Gaming. We've seen the Azir and Misfortune combo already, Emperor's Divide, and then you just ult with a Misfortune. As long as you get like a 3-man, everyone from the opposite side of the team is super squishy, and that's the reason why Caspiel's Lamb's Respite is so detrimental in turning around fights in case that Ascension Gaming pulls the trigger.
Look at his timing though. Shiro, they're just gonna wait for Shiro's Rage Bar to actually go off, and then they're gonna go for the gank. Level 3 for Lloyd with a red buff, so here they start it off. He doesn't have the bounce. Level 2, so this guy's very squishy. Can they actually connect onto it? He flashes over, very low in HP, one more shot and First Blood gets taken by Ascension Gaming.
Wow, sneaky by Ascension. There was a ward there at the brush at the riverside, but because of the sneaky pathing coming from Lloyd, he pretty much knows where to enter, and that is a good take for that First Blood for Ascension.
Efficiency with the ganks. You can't expect him to go for the blue buff right after the red in a couple of camps, but you know what he says? Once I get that level 3, I want to get that insta-kill, and here he goes. Speaking of kills though, KLH's Caspiel is hovering over the bottom lane, as you can really see that his ADC or duo bot here is kind of forcing it. They might go for a offensive, maybe tower dive, but I don't think it's kind of good against a Pike who can just, you know, punish you straight from the get-go.
Indeed. Very scary CC from Rich there on that Pike. Don't want to risk it. It's not like a Morgana Talia that happened at Mega, their match against Mega last time at group stages. But going back to Kuala Lumpur Hunter side, good rotation still, knowing the fact that the Nocturne was there earlier at the top side, might as well try to take away at least a consolation prize from that First Blood. So we'll have to see how they're gonna adjust to this, because Infernal Drake is the first dragon. We've seen Ocean Drakes, Air Drakes being taken at the 15-minute mark, but here comes an engage.
Good connections with the stun, very low in HP, has to tumble or swim away, and Rich, well, didn't have to use his flash or ignite, but did have to at least get that healing from Nixar. So Good initiations there from Azoroveki and Superior. There is the rotation here from Caspiel as he is looking onto G4. Can Arhedge connect a stun here as he jumps in for the fight? But Lloyd is here on the sidelines. Very careful not to get hit by this one as... Oh, he's gonna go for it. I mean, he doesn't have the ultimate just yet. There's the no stun connections, and he is really diving into this one, but Lloyd is kind of a little bit cautious knowing that Caspiel is not far behind.
Indeed, look at that. Both control wards are placed at opposite sides of the river brush. So obviously, they have seen or anticipated that maybe they will wait for the correct time to actually get an aggressive play. But as you can see, top side already rotation for that Kindred. But at the moment, G4 is sitting fine and dandy as he has a lot of range to work with his soldiers. Now, Chunk 2, half HP already, but no summoner spells have been burned from earlier, except for that heal coming from Nixar from bot lane.
Yeah. So one thing that I kind of noticed here from Kuala Lumpur Hunters back when they had that tiebreaker match against Mega is that they are a team that can also play the safe game. Like they're just going to be, they're going to look for the ganks, but they won't overcommit to it because I believe that there was also Amplifier who said that there is, I believe, Superior joining the team who said he's like the voice of reason here for Kuala Lumpur Hunters. If they try to go aggressive, he'll say, don't go for it, guys. We're just going to have to try to do it again the next time. Don't try to make the hero plays because this is a game that we're trying to win, not try to be, stylistic about it.
Exactly, and it's a very, very good balance in terms of dynamics for Kuala Lumpur Hunters. But looking at their composition, I'm guessing it's going to be extra explosive for Ascension Gaming once they all reach their level 6, especially with Lloyd and Rocky on that Abyssal Voyage. I believe they'll make a lot of proactive plays around the map just because they can, and just because a lot on the opposite side of KLH are very squishy. They could easily take advantage of that early burst damage and just surprise everybody else. Rich spots Caspiel here, just placing a ward at the red side.
He'll pop the Observer there, but as you can see, even RH is actually going to be hovering over this one. They do spot out, I believe that was just Caspiel and the Misfortune and the timing to at least be able to steal this red buff. Really it's gonna deter somewhat the ganking prowess of Lloyd as he won't be able to use that properly. Activates the ultimate here and he actually goes in for the dive. TP will be used by Rocky, but then immediately just cancel it as they disengage. And like I said, voice of reason. Don't want to go overcommit onto this one as they don't have insane damage just yet to, to follow up their initiations.
Yes, indeed. Good disengage there, but we'll see a pause from our first game for today. But again, good disengage. Level 5, the jungler of Kuala Lumpur Hunters wasn't level 6 just yet, but Nocturne managed to reach his level 6 rather. So of course they don't want to commit to that as they probably most likely will lose that sort of matchup.
Yeah, what's kind of perfect here is that Kuala Lumpur Hunters didn't really use a lot to kind of sort of start that skirmish, and they forced Nocturne to use his ultimate and for Rocky to also use his TP. So the only thing for mobility right now for a couple of minutes for Ascension is probably going to be the Abyssal Voyage and maybe, the Chicken Drift of Azir. So that's actually something that, Kuala Lumpur Hunters can actually use immediately from the get-go, since I believe it's going to be the Gnar who would have his TP up to, start off something or follow up what Kuala Lumpur Hunters wants to do.
Exactly, but one of the key things for Kuala Lumpur Hunters most of the time when they win their matches is their strong early game, and it's one of those things whereas if Caspiel cannot find the correct catch for during the early phases of the game or the early invades and find a pick, then it's going to be a very difficult transition for the side of Kuala Lumpur Hunters. And so far, so good for Ascension Gaming. They're very slow and steady. They're very, very dominant in terms of macro play, and in terms of damage, they're not lacking as well. Contesting objectives might be very, very tricky for Kuala Lumpur Hunters just because there's a lot of AoE damage coming from the side of Ascension Gaming and a lot of burst. On the other side though, if there's a lot of burst, you have the Lamb's Respite coming from the jungler Caspiel, Yesuri on that Kindred. So it's all about that timing, playing around with the cooldowns as well, and trying to bait out cooldowns when they try to take objectives. Because we've seen a lot of very scary objective takes around Baron and around Dragon that they turn things around just because they're all clumped up in that single area. Just very, very open to that painful AoE.
Yeah, something that I kind of want to point out here was something you said. They're going to be using Caspiel's Lamb's Spite. But one of the things that Ascension actually, picked in the drafting to counter this out is the Azir. So I feel like there's going to be a bit less of reliance to the Lamb's Spite to actually keep them alive in the team fights, because, well, Azir can just push you out. And if you try to, keep forcing fights with knowing that, Caspiel is there, he's going to be using his ultimate to try to prolong, our lives, it's not really going to happen, because, again, they're going to be pushed out, they're going to be they're going to be low in HP, and they're going to be easy pickings for, this Misfortune who can deal damage from such a far range, and even, the Nocturne again who can just dive in and just slash with the smithereens.
Exactly. That's actually a good point. There's a lot of displacement. There's a displacement skill rather on the side of Ascension Gaming. But what I'm very curious about what the mid game is going to look like, because so far it's been very steady. No aggressive play so far, except for that one engage at the riverside near the Raptor camp of Ascension Gaming. So I'm looking forward to more proactive plays, especially using the Abyssal Voyage. And looks like we're back in the game.
I feel like with that, Fallen for Hunters is starting to set up a possible dragon take here. I know that they haven't gotten any kills yet, but I think it's gonna be leading up to that. But we'll just have to see how it pans out. RH is starting a little bit of harassment against G4, but G4 has been pretty good in kind of using his Sand Soldiers to bring back the damage onto his opponent. And you can see right here that he is putting him very freaking low. And RH is just obliging him a little bit. Actually is kind of looking to go for some resistances to the magic damage side. A little bit afraid of that Azir pokes.
Exactamundo. And when you mentioned burst, it kind of reminded me of the fact that the build path is actually perfect. If a Nocturne jumps into one of the very squishy targets, for example, maybe RH or maybe Ozora Veki, it's just like an easy click on that stopwatch, I guess, later on on their build. Yeah. So it might be, it's that extra defense and denial. And there's a lot of sustained damage coming from the side of KLH. So I'm just really looking forward. Here comes a TP.
TP, it's just gonna be, the Heimerdinger, the Mad Tinkerer, the Scientist. 4 members are here. It's gonna be a 4v4. It could be the startup. There's the hook in to the Rakan, but as you can see, RH has to back away. Misfortune activates her ultimate, and this forces Rakan to actually back away. Caspiel goes in with a dive. 2v1 situation, activates the Lancer's Fight, but G4 is not there to push him out. So he's gonna be flashing over the wall, but still gets blasted by Nixar. And 4 members of Ascension still here in front of the Dragon. And ladies and gentlemen, this is an Infernal, so it's really gonna boost up their damage as this game progresses. But that was a little bit questionable, I would say, from KLH.
Huge reward there from Ascension Gaming. Aside from getting a kill on Caspiel, one of the key members of KLH, it's not over!
He flashes in, wants to go for the kill. 2v2, activates the ultimate from the Rakan, but doesn't follow up at all. More of like a disengage rather than a counter engage right there. Ozora Veki, I did say that he is good at zoning, but at the same time, he is a pretty static target once you get hit by the initiations from our Pike here.
Indeed, very good hook. Actually managed to force Superior to back away and respect all that damage. But moving back to what I just mentioned earlier in terms of composition, when you are going to be contesting objectives, doing the Dragon Dance, doing the Baron Dance, it's so tricky because you're just very open to the AoE. Yes, KLH has a lot of AoE on their side as well, but the range coming from Ascension Gaming, they have the means to poke in safety first before going all in. But I guess, let's see.
Speaking of going in, this is gonna be the ultimate once again. He gets pushed back by our Aurelion Sol here, but it's really not gonna matter. The Mega Nard does not get any stuns at all, and Shiro is desperately trying to just force them away from his own carry. And from what looks like to have been a little bit of a good startup here for a little bit of the offensive side for KLH, this actually opens up maybe a free Rift Herald, but Ascension, they stave off their hand. Superior looking in onto Nixar, initiates the fight, and this is going to be a 2 versus 1. Although Nixar does have a flash here, no ultimates yet for Superior to use to initiate, and he is actually getting hit so freaking hard. There is the Misfortune ultimate. Goes in, scatters the damage, and he is actually doing this 2v1.
Yes, red buff has expired, I guess. If Veki was a little bit more nearer when the engage sort of happened, then I guess Superior wouldn't be chunked down into almost more than half HP there. But look at this. Ascension Gaming is reading KLH like a book, reading Caspiel in particular like a book. Knowing the fact that they're very heavy on rotations, let's get Dragon, Infernal Dragon failed. Let's get Rift Herald. That's another best thing that's available on the map.
Goes in with the flash, pops them up. There's the lineup. Look at the rockets coming out from Azora Becky, and this guy is going to start off the first kill for Kuala Lumpur Hunters. There was the TP, I believe, in the bottom lane, but Rocky just disengages from that one. Rich is right here as well, still just looking over, and this could be a straight push to get that bottom tier 1, get that first blood on the tower. But are we going to see, are they going to really force this? Aurelion Sol, or rather Nocturne is here. Ultimate not yet available for a couple more seconds, and they just back away.
Looks like they have the timing for that red buff spawn. They do have a ward. They've spotted Nocturne, but we'll see if it's gonna work.
Oh, is that really gonna be the best possible scenario here as the Lester's Point once again activated and Caspel not pushed out from this one. Nocturne activates the ultimate there. G4 goes in, 3-man ultimate, and there you go. Katarina 2.0 with the pike. Just X marks spot damage is gonna be real, and once again Kuala Lumpur Hunters trespassing on the territory of Ascension, not respecting that Azir can just do that in the blink of an eye.
It seems that Ascension Gaming is ready for everything that KLH is planning to do in terms of getting back into this game, and it's sort of failing. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C is not working out so well for KLH. Lamb's Respite being used there, but ultimate available still for that Nocturne. Good pike, and as well as G4 on that engage, double kill as well. So there's a lot of gold rolling on Ascension Gaming side, and it's just so difficult at this point because we've seen games from KLH when the early game doesn't work out, they seem to falter and not get back into the game.
Yeah, something that's adding also to this difficulty is I feel like Nocturne's ultimate, like aside from just the initiation for that, the blind that it puts onto your opponents, the stress that you, or the lack of information rather, just really kind of hinders Kuala Lumpur Hunters to get some really good invades. As you can see, they tried to do this once. They failed. Nobody, gets taken out, that's fine. But the second time they try to do it, it happens, and G4 was already there for the punish because now he's looking good. Gnasher's Tooth gets his, he's already level 10, and ultimate is always gonna almost be, up for use on those certain scenarios, and he is, capitalizing heavily on that.
Exactly. They are in a comfy spot at this point. 3K gold lead, but KLH, it's one of those things whereas bot lane is so pressured right now. I know that Becky is just wanting to chill at the bot side and probably get picks here and there, but none of the picks actually worked. RH, Chunk to half HP, forced to respect the damage from G4 with that Gnasher's Tooth. But again, there's a lot of lanes to take care of for Caspiel. But mission accomplished here for the Kindred. Managed to get that RH, not RH, RH.
Rift Herald.
Rift Herald.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit confusing, but it's all good in the hood. There's a lot of wards coming out from G4 here as he's really trying to get that information on where Caspiel is. And this just goes back to what you said, that again, Kuala Lumpur Hunters really like the rotations, so all Ascension has to do is to try to get as much information as possible on where those rotations will happen, and immediately they try to look for the strike. Lloyd spots out the Caspiel who's top side, immediately goes for the bottom, and they spot out one control ward here, plus even the blue buff, which will definitely hinder a little bit of the power, I would say, that Aurelion Sol will give. G4 is going to be just going over the wall here. He's not going to be in a pretty tight situation. That's just, the mobility of this Azir. But like you said, it just shows the counter rotations that that Ascension has.
Yes, Ascension Gaming seems to have everything covered. One of the things that we see in terms of tendency for Caspiel, especially on the Kindred, if everything else fails, if I can't land a good lane gank, then I'll probably spot you out in your own jungle and get a pick. We've seen this numerous times against different teams, but it seems that it's not working at all for Ascension Gaming. So the question is, what is left for KLH, knowing the fact that it might be a little bit difficult once that mid game comes, once the laning phase is over, because they're just gonna Ascension Gaming seems to be a very aggressive team when it comes to when they know that they're in the lead, they'll just keep pushing through and not allow Caspiel to do any movements in the map.
Yeah, and what's kind of worrisome here is that maybe aside from just the Gnar, there's really no real tank for Kuala Lumpur Hunters. So each and every single one of them, even the Rakan to a certain extent, is on the squishier end here. So any target that Ascension actually looks to, start off a fight with is easy pickings for themselves. And on the other end, Ascension here, even though they are kind of on the squishy end themselves, they have a lot more, like you said, tools of the trade to use to kind of control the team fight, reset if ever necessary, and just overall be safe.
Exactly. But because of the way things turned out for KLH during the early game, it seems that their plan of having to have Rakan Superior assist with Caspiel or RH here with Caspiel seems to have not worked out in their favor. So it all boils down to try and minimize, create this sort of equalization of gold, just so that when the fight comes, when an objective comes in the map, example, Mountain Drake, definitely something that they want to contest and definitely something Ascension Gaming wants to take. So vision control is so important, but Lloyd is already starting the Mountain Drake. Let's see how they respond because they timed it so well. They saw KLH went home, and it's a perfect timing.
And they're going to be trading that for a possible kill onto Rocky, but he does have the Grey Health to absorb quite a bit of damage here, and Caspiel can actually go down, forced to use his Lance Respite. But now, this is a race to time. Who will get the first turret here, or tower rather, top lane or bottom lane? They activate the Rift Herald onto the bot, so that should immediately pop, but it seems like it's going to be, KLH to get themselves the first one, but they do lose, again, bottom tier 1 and a Mountain Drake for that one. So, I mean, is that really worth it? Feel like it is. They have been kind of on the difficult side of where they should actually go. There you go, activates the ultimate, and immediately Caspiel goes down. They saw that his last respite was not activated anymore, but now RH, look what he's doing. He is just walking up to them with the fire orbs, and he is toasting them down. But now he has no chance to actually reset the fight because he has no stopwatch. He has only the Roa to get that in terms of HP, and Lloyd catches him off. And you know what? It's again another pickup for the Pike. And this is just why Rich is so disgusting. You have that reset on the Pike. When you get that first kill, you have about 20 seconds to use it once again for free. And now he's 5-0-1, and I don't know what is happening to KLH.
KLH had the right idea. They wanted to maximize the Rift Herald, and knowing the fact that, okay, we just killed Rocky, it's fine. The problem is, I felt like the fight would have ended differently if the Lamb's Respite wasn't used earlier, just so as to save the Kindred. If the tower juggle was done more efficiently, I felt like the fight could have gone differently at that time. But KLH, because Ascension Gaming rather, because of that collapse, they managed to punish them wanting that tower. But they still get a tower. But at this point, it's just so crazy to think that we have a 501 Pike in our game. Rich right now, giving riches to the rest of the teams from Ascension Gaming.
Yeah, and I totally agree with what you said. I feel like it's going to be at least a bit more, well, you know what, let's just hold that thought first, because there's going to be Shiro spotted out. He was not consumed by Rocky, as he was able to use that ultimate of his, but I do have to give a lot of comments here to Ascension, or good comments rather, that they are forcing out these ultimates in not so important skirmishes that is allowing Ascension to kind of find these slight openings to just abuse that fact. Like you said, Caspiel did use his ultimate there to save himself on the top lane when they dove Rocky, and then after that, they just knew there was no Lamb's Respite. Now, they know that Shiro doesn't have his ultimate for a couple more seconds, so maybe there's something here, as once again, Lloyd and G4 do have their respective ultimates.
Indeed. Split pushing Tom Kench. Well, anyway, going back into the game, I'm actually very... well, the plan was for KLH. Nothing's happening. Nothing good is happening with this laning phase. Let's start to speed things up. Get that top side so that Shiro has more space to move around the map. Try to get that split push. But it seems that Tom Kench is like the answer based on what I'm seeing so far, especially his build path as well. RH is going to be staying here in the mid lane with Superior. Yeah. But yes, the intention was to open up the map for a more proactive place for KLH, just so that they are not congested into one area, just so that Azir cannot rotate immediately. They could surprise Ascension when it comes to making picks around the map. But at the same time, it's so difficult because you do have the Abyssal Voyage, rather, in response to this, just so that they get some sort of equalization of numbers advantage, if you will.
Yeah, right now, I feel like KLH's composition, they've been trying to do a lot of rotations, right? But I feel like their composition isn't really built for that type of playstyle. If you can see, they actually don't have much in terms of initiation. Yes, I know that they do have the Rakan, but after that, they have to just kind of rely more on these, I would say, skill-heavy rotations from the Aurelion Sol and the and our ADC here on Nazara Vecchi, but I was actually looking if they're going to initiate upon that, uses the passive to get his own sand tower on the mid, and G4 has a little bit of control here. Just to finish what I was saying there, is that I feel like they're going to be looking at more of Ascension kind of making a mistake or forcing a fight, rather than KLH forcing a fight themselves, because if you look at the Heimerdinger, he has to set up towers to make the most out of his skills, right? But if he doesn't, it kind of makes him into just, you kind of just look at him throwing bombs with stuns and then maybe a little bit of rockets, and then he has to go back and reset first, wait for the cooldowns. But for Ascension here, they have a misfortune. You can just deal, sustainable DPS, which is, I think, a bit more of an edge here for Ascension. And I think that's why KLH is having a very difficult time in trying to, find some opening here.
Indeed. There's a lot of setup to actually do for KLH to make things work, especially you want to use that mobility and surprise attack coming from that Aurelion Soul. A lot of consistent damage as well coming from the mid lane. But so far, this is what we were talking about when Ascension comes into the mid phases of the game. It's just all assembled like a puzzle piece. They have that Infernal Drake, they have that Mountain Drake, and they're just trying to consume, or rather overwhelm, KLH with macro play rotations. Sort of very risky wave clear for the side of Kuala Lumpur Hunters, if you think about it, because it's a little bit short range. They might be in range for some very scary plays from Ascension, so we'll have to see. Superior.
Spots out the pike and, just sidesteps the hook right there. One thing that you have to also take, I feel like we have to take note here, is that as Ascension just slowly breaks down these towers against KLH, the biggest thing is that KLH needs to put more vision. I feel like vision control is important for both, but much more important for KLH because once again, you just go back to that fact that there's more global present or semi-global present ultimate here for Ascension. Again, like you said, the Abyssal Voyage and Lloyd with his ultimate. It's going to be very tricky for them to kind of find some openings here. So rather than maybe fighting in a jungle that's not warded, just go push a lane and, not actually fight for an objective. But, I mean, that's a terrible idea for me, but you know what I'm saying.
Wow, no contest whatsoever. A lot of priority on the Baron side, on that river side, to establish more vision. And because Ascension Gaming knows that they are in the lead, they're pretty much confident, especially that bot side was shoved towards inner turret. They were confident enough to take that with no contest whatsoever. This just makes things more complicated for KLH. But in terms of gold equalization, they're still trying to keep up with the lead in gold wise, but in terms of like finding opportunities to pick someone up, it seems that Ascension Gaming has a lot of focus to not let that happen.
Yeah, but at least now, in terms of itemization now for Kuala Lumpur Hunters, for Nazara Vecchi, he already has the Zonius Hourglass, so he's not that easy of a target now. I mean, they'll have to work a little bit harder for them to take him down, but they do have some pretty good damage as well on the side of Ascension. If you check out the itemizations for Lloyd, he has a Dustblade of Drakthar. I mean, 25 minutes in for a jungle, that's not really the craziest of timings, but the good is just, he just does so much damage. And look at that. Flashes over, spots out Shiro, and immediately from the get-go, a quick, clean, and I wouldn't say painless, maybe painful pickoff.
It looked very painful to me, Asarai. But those are the things where it's so difficult because they opened up the map so that Shiro has more room to push some waves, to split push, but it seems that they're not allowing that to happen. Easy pickings, Caspiel.
Oh, he's spotted out. The damage, the Tahm Kench, look at the slaps, he consumes it, he's gonna force the ultimate, but no! Doesn't even have to, because, he the baller, man, he's gonna be able to take it down. And you know what, I say fire a lot, but this composition from Ascension is total water. Yes.
Total water.
Because Tahm Kench and Pike.
the water composition.
Yes, exactly.
Nicely done, Asura. But yes, you can see how painful in a head Rocky is already. I mean, we mentioned how Rocky is so good at carry champions, but we saw that Tom Kench this time around, he used it still as a carry still. But Azora Becky will be chilling and clearing at the top side of the map. Again, it's so difficult knowing the fact that if you're alone, Ascension Gaming is just going to capitalize on that just because they can. They have established a lot of map control already.
Yeah.
A lot of objectives being taken as well. So I'm pretty sure they're eyeing this Baron. And the more picks that they have, the more, what do you call this, the more opportunities they have on the map that opens up.
Something I think I wasn't able to mention is that, if I'm not mistaken, Rocky as a Tom Kench has percentage damage. That's why he's also good in being able to counter out these sort of tank type champions. And also one thing that I kind of want to add here is, I believe watching Ascension Gaming in their Thailand qualifiers when it was still 8.14, when we were seeing the Galio in the mid, they are really good as a team in kind of using these combo type of champions wherein they have the Nocturne ultimate, and then this was back then, right? 8.14 with the Galio, they just used that Galio to kind of follow up, and they're in a certain sense they're kind of doing the same thing with this type, and it seems like All Out for Hunters still is kind of having some difficulty finding a way to counter that with this particular comp of theirs, which, you know, isn't really mobile. They have to stick to one position and, you know, lay it down and then back off and then lay it down once again. But because Ascension is just so fast at these pickoffs, they can't find that rhythm to go for the fights.
Exactly, and the laning phase has already passed as well. So the win condition that they were after in terms of getting Caspiel going didn't really happen for them, and that's the reason why they're having a hard time at this point. They opened up the map for Shiro, but it just leaves more room for the Nocturne, Lloyd on the Nocturne, to actually get some picks, get more money on his pocket. But we'll see, Baron being taken right now. KLH, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do when they come for you? Oh, here it is, the real insult, Disc of Destruction! He actually goes in, Caspiel has to back away. Nocturne with the Paranoia activates it, and oh, who gets it? The Baron stolen, pushes it back, and they're now going to try to get away, but the Misfortune ultimate shreds them down. Caspiel is no more, Rakan as well, and two members of KLH have been immediately popped from the get-go. Rich is looking, you know that he wants to. He's the support, but he has dreamed to be a carry, and he can actually do it. Rich is looking for that opening. Hooks in Shiro, but it's really not going to happen. Swims in, dives in like Jaws from that movie. Dan, he's looking for the killer. Zora Becky is trying to run away, puts down a turret just to back them off, and now they're trying to back away. And Rocky showing his, I would say, utility here. Even with the damage that he has, he can still gobble up his own teammates and put him into, you know, in the safety line and still back off. And with that, Baron, 2 kills, 2 turrets, or 2 towers rather, and this is looking to be an Ascension game.
Indeed, Baron so maximized for Ascension Gaming. Aside from the kill on several members from KLH, they managed to take down a bunch of turrets as well in the process. And they'll just take that, go back, buy some items, and come back stronger. And that's the reason why KLH is having a hard time. I know there was an attempt there on Baron to actually get the steal, because it's one of those things that could actually slow them out. Caspiel!
I just want to say that Ascension is now building up multiple Dustblade of Dakthar. I'm just going to call this the Stabby McStab build because they have so much damage. The Abyssal Voyage is going to put Caspiel to the Abyss as Lloyd is on a killing spree. This madman also has a guardian angel, so you have to take him out twice. What can you do? And with Caspiel down, no Last Respite for about 35 seconds, plus a man there. And look at the damage from Nixar. Did you see that one auto attack? 1/4 on the tower. And oh my goodness, they're going to force this out right now. There's the ultimate Paranoia once again. Blind will be the members of KLH, and once again, Misfortune goes in with the ultimate, activates Pike as well with the follow-up, and Shiro is trying to just be a frontline, but he can't as Rocky gobbles him up. What is happening? Ascension, 17 kills to 3, and this game number 1, like I said, is looking dire straits for KLH. Inhibitor turret is down, and that inhibitor is pretty much easy pickings.
What an insane game, just as you said, from Ascension. So comfortable. Even though somebody gets picked off, it's totally fine because they are such in a huge lead in terms of gold items and map control as well. They have everything right now. Even Air Drake is free for the take. And at this point, KLH really has to think about what's going to happen for next game. Well, they're not giving up just yet, but it looks really dire for the Hunters right now.
Yeah. What I feel like is going to happen right now for KLH is it's going to, like, it feels like these Zonia's Hourglass, it's going to be good for prolonging their lives, but at the same time, it's not as effective as like when you have a Swain with with the Zonia's Hourglass. I mean, they'll have a little bit of damage to come out there, but they're just going to be trying to possibly make it to 3v5 even though they're not, knocked out. But still, like I said, it just goes to just simple terms. It's just going to be kind of a detrimental item for me right now. It's going to keep them alive, but at the same time, it's just going to make it easier for Ascension to just stomp on through with their initiations.
Speaking of initiations, I believe the desk has brought this out. One of the things that is sort of hard to pull off, I guess, is the reliable engage from KLH. I guess it's one of the key things that they didn't manage to secure because there's a lot of things going on for Ascension. They have the Pike, they have... I mean, even though if you land that grenade stun or the stun from the Aurelian Soul, there's already a QSS on the side of Misfortune. So if you do want to try and punish, it might be a little bit too late already because, they already had a hard and difficult time in the early phases.
Silver lining here for KLH is that the Baron buff has already dissipated on the Ascension side. But as you can see, they're going for a 4-1 split push here with Nocturne just going to be on the top side. You know that he can actually just dive into the fight. He has so much range with that Paranoia. It's actually pretty damn disgusting. Anyways, now this might actually be the final fight here. RH is going to be able to connect onto Nixar here. Forces the use on that cleanse. Or rather the QSS if I'm not mistaken. And they're just going to back away. But this is Ascension. They know already they have that huge advantage. So they don't have to go overly aggressive to, to force a fight here. They can just surgically remove his inhibitors and reset. Not really sure what time the Elder or the Baron will actually respawn, but it should be quite soon. And KLH cannot push out of their base.
So much respect from Ascension Gaming after, just as you mentioned, surgically removing the inhibitors away from Kuala Lumpur Hunters. They've decided to just try to push the waves and maybe, group up together and make sure that they get the job done. No room for mistakes, if you will, for Ascension Gaming. Take note, just a little reminder, this is a revenge match for Kuala Lumpur Hunters against Ascension Gaming as they've already faced ASC at GPL Spring 2018 at the finals. It was a 3-1 that time, but this is a different KLH already. They've improved so much in comparison to that, to the previous split. But we'll have to see. Game number 1 right now. Ascension still looking super dominating in our SCA region.
Yeah, but you also got to remember that even though we finished this game number 1, this is a best of 5. Still plenty of time for KLH to, compose themselves rather. But right now, they actually find a little bit of opening onto Lloyd here, who's going to use his Paranoia, but does not have anybody to give him much support. But now, as the Abyssal Voyage comes out, that's going to be a 3-man in the bottom lane. Could be a little bit of opening here for KLH to spot out someone out of position, but that's not really going to be the case. Ascension looks pretty good, and they will just back away 30 seconds before that Baron spawns, and they're starting to put the vision, but at the same time, Superior is going to be trying to put as much vision as possible, as they would definitely want to contest that.
Take note, most of our matches from group stages average around 25 to 30 minutes. Now it's surpassing that. The only match that we saw that reached 40 minutes was the time when Ascension Gaming went up against Mineski. Mineski was already behind, but Ascension Gaming decided to just do the same as what we're seeing now and make sure that they finish cleanly.
Oh no, Superior. He forced himself to use that flash to get away from the initiations. Not really what I wanted to do, as that could be used for, for starting a team fight. But now, both inhibitors in mid and bottom are down for KLH, so they have a very limited amount of time to try to contest this Baron from Ascension, and they have begun it. KLH, they know what's up. They're going to try to put some vision over that, but look at the shred on that Baron. Definitely a quick and a quick objective for themselves. G4 goes over the wall. You know he wants to start a fight, but nothing to be had. And now, my goodness, this is going to be a Baron on this push. It's going to be difficult.
Exactly. Looks like they are having Ascension Gaming, again, playing very safe, very textbook style, waiting for the Baron to spawn. Okay, that's the time. You can see in their inventories, there's a lot of defensive items already, but Nixar, so brave, leading the charge.
Oh my gosh! Ooh, did you see that damage?
That was painful, Asterai.
He just lined it up.
Lining it up, I mean, that's a whole ton of gold and items in their inventory already. Baron buff on their side as well. Decent wave there for KLH, but when I say defensive items, they've got a lot of magic resistance on Ascension Gaming side. They can pretty much tank the initial burst of damage from KLH.
Man, I am not feeling too good here for Caspiel as he goes down. Easy pokes from G4, and that wasn't even with any I would say ultimates used, and now here we go. They're going to go aggressive. They spot the other one. Rakan goes down, and G4 activates his ultimate, spots out by the well. But in this one, it's just going to be Ascension taking game number 1 pretty dang decisively. 37 minutes in, 21-4, and that concludes